Welcome to this month's episode of Best Bills, the place where failure isn't feared, it's explored. So, if you are new here, Best Fields is a brave space where we unpack the stories we often hide. We look at what went wrong, what it revealed, and how it shaped us. Today's guest is Gail Withers, who shares her journey of personal and professional reinvention after losing her job. With clarity and lots of self compassion, Gail speaks to the importance of setting boundaries and managing our own expectations of our workplaces. She also reminds us that bitterness is a natural companion to failure, but it doesn't have to be a permanent one. When we allow ourselves to sit with it, feel it, and learn from it, bitterness can evolve into something far more powerful: betterment. This conversation is about reclaiming agency, honoring emotion, and choosing growth, even when the path forward feels uncertain. So let's get into it. Get ready to meet Gail Withers, a powerhouse in the world of corporate training who knows a thing or two about bouncing back. Born and raised in Barbados, Gail is the founder and lead training consultant at Envision Training Solutions, where she designs customized programs that empower teams, grow brands, and drive measurable results. With over 25 years of experience and more than 65,000 people trained in leadership, team building, communication, and customer service, Gail is a Caribbean trailblazer who doesn't just teach excellence, she lives it. But Gail's story isn't all polished workshops and standing ovations. In 2020, she was suddenly severed from a job she thought was secure. That moment, raw, unexpected, and deeply personal, became her best fail. But rather than break her, it revealed the truth. She was always meant to create something bigger than a job title. That fail sparked her full time entrepreneurship journey and the bold mission behind Envision Training Solutions. Gail's voice is warm, witty, and rooted in purpose. She doesn't sugarcoat setbacks, but instead breaks them down into bite sized insights for those navigating career chaos, burnout, or uncertain next steps. As a certified instructional designer and virtual trainer, she now helps companies build cultures where leadership is real, service is intentional, and training leads to real transformation. Best of all, Gail is a Disney Institute training CX professional in areas such as leadership, employee engagement, and quality service. Expertise which allows her to add even more value to the organizations that need her most. In this episode of Best Fails, Gail opens up about how losing a job gave her life back, the pressure of keeping it together when everything is falling apart, and why failure can be a painfully perfect teacher if you let it. You'll laugh, reflect, maybe even cry, and walk away with a renewed appreciation for the growth that comes from life not going as planned. Gail, welcome to the Best Fails podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you on with us today.
Thank you for having me, Allison.
You are most welcome. Now, that is powerful. There were some things that you said in there, about failure being a painfully perfect teacher. I absolutely love that. There are some lessons that success will never teach you, going along will never teach you, but failure teaches you in such a painfully perfect way. I love that.
Yeah. Failure is hot. It can be hot.
Oh,
It's like you're
it
in the fire.
burns.
It burns. It burns.
Exactly, exactly. So we're gonna get into it. No, we heard everything. We heard a lot about Gil and your professional experience, your expertise, the thousands of people that you've trained. But we want to get to know Gil, the person, a little bit more. So tell us a little bit about. We know you grew up in Barbados. Tell us a little bit more about that, about your family, about what was life like as a child. Give us some insight into Gil.
Yes. So I am a born and bred and proud Barbadian. I grew up in a little village in St. George, actually
Mhm.
called Jericho. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Small
Wait,
little village,
is it close to Ellison?
close but not. close. It is close
Oh,
to
okay.
Allerton. It's closer to St.
Uh-huh.
Thomas, like on the border,
Right,
in a
yes.
little peony with wooden house. All of us had these
Okay.
peony wooden houses.
Yes.
But the community was very close. So
Mm-hmm.
we grew up together in Jericho. It was my mom and my dad. I have one sister,
Mm-hmm.
and then we moved a little further away to a place called Bridgecote.
Right. Yeah, I know Bush
Yes.
Cottage. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the community in Jericho, though. Everybody knew everybody. We played in the
Yes.
road when we got home from school. People had sheep and goats and ducks and pigs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you learned a lot about responsibility from early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you remember the days of having to pick rice every single Saturday night to cook on
Yeah.
Sunday. And then is
Yeah.
the split peas, and then is the
Yes.
washing of the chicken, and it was all those little things that I think we took them for granted then because we don't do them now. But all of those little things I think came together to make us into the people, that we are. And I think when you're growing up like that, you have these little failure lessons that you're not
Mm-hmm.
even cognizant of. So, like for example, you had to pick the rice, and the rice had to be picked a certain way. And if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
do it that way, you failed in that assignment. And that was
Yes.
the message. Why did you not pick the rice
Yes.
properly? Why did you not clean the
Yes.
chicken properly? You are a failure. Not that they're using the word failure, if you see what I mean, but from the
Yes.
time you are small, you are taught how to avoid
Do it
failure
right. How
by
to do
doing
it.
it right. Yes,
Yes.
how to do it right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I grew up in Jericho, moved to Bridgecote. Then I took my 11 plus, that famous
Mm-hmm.
exam.
Of course.
Went to St. Michael's for a year. Went to
Uh-huh.
QC. I think
Uh-huh.
that experience was also in terms of failures. In preparing for this, I thought about what were the big failures in my life
Mm-hmm.
that kind of were like these stepping stones to where I am
Yeah.
today. So
Yeah.
I sat that exam, excuse me, and I went to St. Michael's. And
Mm-hmm.
according to my granny and my great granny, that was a failure because I did not pass to go to Queen's College. The goal was to go to
Right.
Queen's College. So it's all these
Mm-hmm.
little things. So then I had to resit the exam. Yes, I went to Queen's College, but
Mm-hmm.
the burning failure of not getting it right the first time,
Yeah.
always kind of was the foundation of you need to do it right, you need to do it right, but you need to do it right the first time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because we inherited a lot of colonialism things and education was our way out. And it was a very big deal for our ancestors, for lack of a better way of putting it. So, it's the little things like that, especially at school, that kind of shape us into who we are. The little things. And then nobody talks to us about failure. So, you pass for St. Michael's, which was a failure, and then you come 11th in form at the end of the year after you were a superstar at primary school. So, hello, you're
Yes.
going from 1st to 11th. What's up with that? And then you having these very
Yes.
strange conversations with your parents. And I'm saying, like,
Parents.
wait, 11th is not like 29th or 30th, is 11th. They're still in the top half. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting childhood. And you had to learn a lot about confidence because a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
conversations were around failure in subtle ways. And you
Yeah.
had to learn if you weren't strong, you could kind of embrace that rather than overcome it.
So tell me, so you would have mentioned the failure of failing to pass for Queen's College. Was that your earliest failure, you would say, or there's another failure that you remember that supersedes that one?
No, I would think that was my biggest
Maybe.
failure. That was my hottest failure. That was the hot one. That was the hot one. That was
Oh,
the hot one.
so let's talk about, because you did talk about how it shaped you and needing to have confidence and so forth. So tell me a little bit about how that failure set you up in terms of how you've approached other failures within for the rest of your life, whether good or bad. What are some of the takeaways that you took from that first experience?
I think it taught me I needed to work harder at being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in primary school, and as I told you, I was a superstar, learning was more natural. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to revise per se because I
Yeah.
knew the work. And then you go
Yeah.
into secondary school and you take that same mindset into first and second form. You may
Yeah.
get away with it in third form, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be some day where you realize you really need to sit down and you need to have a strategy, and you don't have any natural ability when it comes to remembering stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn to come up with learning mechanisms. So I am the
Mm-hmm.
highlighter girl. I have a gazillion highlighters. I
Uh-huh.
am printing. I am writing
Mm-hmm.
because writing
Mm-hmm.
reinforces learning. I'm writing
Yeah.
stuff out. I'm highlighting, and I had to learn. It takes more effort. Some people have
Mm-hmm.
it naturally, and they have these photographic memories where they can go home and read a book and come and pass the exam the next day. That is not me.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
not me. And so then when I went into fourth form and we had our mock CXC exams, I did
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. And I
Yeah.
did pretty good with the O levels and stuff, you know? So,
Yeah.
but it was coming to that realization over a period of time and taking home those reports. You do not take home reports that are scary. Allison, those conversations last the entire 8 weeks of summer vacation.
Yes.
You cannot get away from them. So you know what? Let's see if we can work around them. But it does take
Yes.
time. It does take
Yeah.
time. So even now as an adult, if I have to learn anything or do an exam, I know that I can't just wing it.
Yeah.
It's a process. Learning
Yeah.
anything new is a process. But
Yeah.
I came to that realization because of the failures from before
Yeah.
and getting, what would have been considered bad grades.
Yeah. So learning and success is effortful. It doesn't just happen because you
Hmm.
want it to happen.
And it's
Um,
practice.
it takes
Practice.
practice, which is good, especially when we're thinking about failure and the fact that if we're going to be doing anything for the first time, it requires practice because we don't become perfect immediately.
Hmm.
But one of the questions are that I wondering about because you failed the exam and passed for St. Michael. Excellent school for anybody who doesn't know Barbados. I know the school system in Barbados. Excellent school. so
But at the
so
time it was still number two. It wasn't
it
number
was so
one.
yes,
Your goal is to go to number
yes.
one. You get it
To go to
confused.
number one. So where was Harrison College in the midst for all this? Because when I
Because
set my
Harrison
11
College
plus,
was
yes.
boys. Harrison College was boys.
Oh,
QC was
right.
girls. Remember.
Yes. Yes.
Remember.
Yes.
This years
Yes.
and years ago,
Yes.
Allison. Harrison College was boys, number one for boys.
Right.
Queens College was number one for
Girl
girls.
for girls. Yeah, yeah,
St.
yeah, yeah,
Michael's was
yeah.
number two for girls. They didn't have
For
boys
girls.
either. Hmm.
Yes, I completely forgot that actually, because by the time I did my 11 plus, both of them were
Co-ed.
co-ed school. Yes. So I did forget that. I did forget that. So did you think that did it have any impact in terms of maybe perfectionism or because you needing to or feeling the need to get it right the first time? Was that something that you also struggled with because of that particular failure?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you struggled with it. The thing is,
Mm-hmm.
there were so many other dynamics going on. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
we put our children through stuff. But I think it's because we want the best for them. And we
Yeah.
do know that education is a way out. That
Mm-hmm.
when you get an exhibition or a scholarship and people's eyes are on you, they want, and in Barbados too, they only want the best, which is, there's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that. But there's work to be the best, and everybody can't be the best.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing after passing no for Queen's College, and you think you're going to get some ticks, you pass the Queen's College as a school that they
Yeah.
wanted, but
Yeah.
you have all of these super bright people now in your
Mm-hmm.
class. So if you
Yeah.
thought 11th was bad at St. Michael's, understand no. You even go on lower down. You're at the school that they want you to go to. But in terms of numbers, and they
Yeah.
say numbers don't lie, and they're looking
Yes.
at your performance based on a
Mm-hmm.
number, that was harder.
Yes. Yeah.
And I
And
told
this is and
people,
this is
it's not that I regret going to QC. I loved it, but
yeah.
it did not help me when it came to the
Understood.
numbers on the report.
By numbers, we talking about positions and not
We're talking
percentages.
about, well,
Because
it's a combination
yes.
of both, because now it's so
Right.
much harder. Is the number, yes,
Yes.
in your position,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
um, it was education on steroids. It
Yeah.
was education on steroids because for them too, they want to be the best.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it was a learning
And
curve.
learning
But that
experience. Yeah.
word that you use, striving for excellence is pain,
Mm-hmm.
and excellence takes practice,
Yeah.
and you have to hang in there.
Yeah, that sounds like a song, but excellence takes practice. I love
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. Yeah. And people say practice is, they think of practice equaling perfection, but practice really equals progress. You're already looking for
Yes.
progress, is not being perfect.
Exactly. Because perfect also means we that you stop striving to become better. Because if you
Yeah,
perfect something, there's another level. If you're not going to that next level, you just remain where you are. So perfection is
agreed.
never the
Yeah.
should really never be the goal.
Hmm.
So I've got a game for us to play. It's a game of cards. Conversations with friends is how I like to kind of think about it and refer to it. So how this is gonna be played is I'm gonna select a number of cards for us. I use Esther Perel's Where Should We Begin? And we'll each answer the same cards. I'll go first so that you have the chance to think. And then, or of course, if I struggle in it, you've got to answer quickly. You can also go ahead, but we'll do a couple of these. So let's see. So this is the first one. When I was younger, I thought the world was sunshine and fairy tales. Listen, I I had a lovely childhood, honestly. I thought everybody had great childhoods. I had no conception that children did not enjoy their childhoods. My parents were great. Of course, they were strict because we in Barbados, we in the Caribbean, so you can't get away with foolishness. But my grandparents, my grandmother particularly, was very involved in our lives. She where she lived, she kind of lived in the area by herself, so she had like a lot of land around her and she grew like a lot of fruit trees. So every vacation, whether or not it's summer, Christmas, Easter, whatever, we always used to be up by her. And there were maybe about eight of us in Barbados, and then we would have our cousins in Canada who would come down as well. And it was just fairy tales and sunshine. And I was talking to my cousin Samantha the other day, and we were remembering when our family members would send barrels to Barbados. And once the barrel was empty, we would be happy because then she kind of lived on an incline. So we would get into the barrel and roll down the hill. so, so we had wonderful, wonderful experiences. And I feel up until I got to a certain point, life just went the way that I wanted it to go until I butt up on my first real failure. And then I recognized, man,
Yeah, failure exists.
what? What is this thing? So yeah. That's what I thought the world was made of. Sunshine and fairy tales.
I would.
How about
I
you?
think I would agree up to a
Uh-huh.
certain extent. So
Mm-hmm.
sunshine and fairy tales. That's a very interesting perspective. So
Uh-huh.
we weren't poor or
Mm-hmm.
destitute, but there were a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things we did not have. You know,
Yes.
I knew it
Yeah.
wasn't totally sunshine and fairy tales for us because we worked very hard to make
Mm-hmm.
ends meet. We had a
Yeah.
garden. You know, we were in St. George.
Yeah.
We had a garden.
Yeah.
So this garden kind of supplemented our food and stuff. But I don't know if you're aware, gardening is very, very, very hard work because after school, especially, you come home from school
Yeah.
and before you do anything, it takes 2 whole hours to wet the garden, and then you have to, weed the garden, fertilize the
Yeah.
garden,
Yeah.
pesticides. It was
Yeah.
a whole lot of work, and we were always
Yeah.
doing something on the side to make
Mm-hmm.
extra money. So we
Yeah.
were introduced to hustling from very early.
Yes. Yeah.
So sunshine, yes, because literally the sun was hot. Fairy tales, I wouldn't say so, but on the flip side, we had, yes, that extended family. We had lots of
Yeah.
cousins. So the summer
Yeah.
vacation, we'd spend time together. But
Mm-hmm.
I think my fairy tale concept of life came from reading. I loved reading from early.
Yeah.
I
Same.
had a maternal aunt who was a head teacher. So me
Mm-hmm.
really didn't have much of a choice to
No.
read. But, so I was into the Enid Blyton stories and all of the
Yes.
creativity and imagination
Yes.
that came from reading those. So that's where I got my,
Mm-hmm.
yes, this is my life, but I can have
Yeah.
other lives from reading. So that is
Yes.
how I got the fairy tale version of what I didn't have in
Yeah.
reality. So as I
Yeah.
said, it wasn't that we were destitute. It's just there were a lot of things that we didn't
Yeah.
have that maybe other people, took for granted.
So we've gotten to know you a bit better, Gail, and this is where we get into your best Phil story. So tell us a little bit about the context. You gave us a snippet of it in the introduction, but give us a little bit more. Tell us the context, what was going on, and tell us about this best Phils that you've experienced.
So, to summarize, because
Yeah.
we would be here for 3 hours, and this is a very personal story, meaning you may not feel the same way about this particular failure.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2020, April the 1st, I got severed from my job. It was so many different things that added up to a feeling of failure,
Mm-hmm.
which was personal. Because I
Mm-hmm.
know other people who lost their jobs and they didn't take it as personally, or it didn't feel like a failure for them. I think for me, it was how it happened. It was during
Right.
COVID. It was an online call, a
Mm-hmm.
Teams meeting. I think it was less than 5 minutes.
Well.
And I could not, the failure for me goes back to remember that passing for the second school kind of thing. We
Mm-hmm.
are taught from very early, remember we talked about colonialism, and I cannot ever get away from colonialism and our culture. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
keep including it in all of my training sessions, because we bring
Mm-hmm.
it with us. We don't
Yeah.
leave it behind. We bring it with us to work and into our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And we are taught that, you go to school, you get your education, and then you get a job and you give your best to your job.
Yeah.
Because in addition to the education, your job is going to get you out of whatever you are in or inherited from your family, right?
Yeah.
So you give of your best. But for us, giving of our best normally means going above and beyond. So I given
Mm-hmm.
my all to this job for the last 15 years. So how could my name be on a list? That was the first thing. How could
Yeah.
my name be on a list? I had sacrificed time with my family, time with my friends. It was a lot of traveling, so I
Mm-hmm.
was hardly in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
I was divorced as a result of not paying attention to my marriage. I thought I
Well.
had paid the ultimate price. And
Yeah.
here is my name on a list. The thing,
Mm-hmm.
too, in terms of a failure and a job, we tend to tie our job to our identity. So
Yes.
now I have no identities, like who I am. So you would go to a
Mm-hmm.
networking session, and the first thing people say, "Hey, so like, so who are you? Where do you work? What do you do?" I had nothing.
Yes.
I had nothing to say because I did not have a job title. I wasn't associated with a branded company that
Mm-hmm.
everybody knew from, in terms of a reputational brand. It was zero. Like who
Mm-hmm.
was I without this job? And then the other thing in terms of a failure was I felt like I hadn't done enough. I know I had done more than enough, but I felt like I hadn't done enough. So this is like, let's go back to the exam. I passed for
Mm-hmm.
the second school instead of the first
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
failure. And then you go to the first school, but then your numbers still aren't good enough. You know what I mean? So it's all these things that then come back like an open sore that come back to
Mm-hmm.
fester because you haven't really dealt with them. So I felt that was my biggest failure. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing that I thought I had failed at was not being prepared. I think that was the biggest thing. In other words, why didn't you see it coming? Why
Mm-hmm.
didn't you have something in place financially, emotionally? Why weren't you prepared? Why weren't you better at expecting the unexpected at your age? You should have done better. You should have known better. And
Mm-hmm.
it was all of that was the failure. I felt like I was a failure because I wasn't prepared. I'd done
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that my parents told me to do, and yet here I
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah.
But as I said,
That's
it was a very personal,
yeah.
traumatic time in my life. I know other people were severed, and it was all like a walk in the park. I'll get another job, whatever, whatever. I took it personally, and I felt
Yeah.
like I had failed myself, and by extension, my son and my family, because I was not able to keep this job, even though keeping the job was totally, totally out of my control.
Yeah. 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 And how did you wrestle with that? Because you talked about the fact that you had given your all, you'd sacrificed family, time, a marriage, even
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to this job, you'd given everything. And and then of course it was such a big part of your identity. I am Gail, the
Mm-hmm.
whomever at
Correct.
whichever company. How did you wrestle with that as you began to create a new identity for yourself? And I even kind of let go all of the things that you gave, and then the return was this: you're no longer with us. Thank you, but no thanks.
Thank you, but no thanks. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to have to tell you this.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the words.
Wow.
I think the biggest lesson was understanding that. Remember, we talked about practice, and that
Yes.
progression takes time.
Yeah.
I had to. So my personality is okay. What comes next? What comes next? What was
Mm-hmm.
going to happen next? You need a job. You have bills to pay. You have a mortgage. You have a car payment. Your son is still at university
Mm-hmm.
overseas. Something has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But before you can get to the next step, you have to figure out where you really are and
Mm-hmm.
recover. You have to recover from
Yes.
that news. Like, I had a rash, Allison. I was not pretty. I broke out in a rash.
Wow.
My hair started to fall out. So I had physical signs of stress in addition to trying to deal with the emotional part.
Yeah.
I was actually 55 when I got severed. So I knew that getting
Was that
another
on your
job.
birthday? That's what you
No,
meant?
no, 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 no,
Oh,
no,
that
not
right.
on my birthday. I meant
Oh, you
I
meant.
was so I turned
Yeah.
55 in January and then I got severed in
Right.
April, but it's
Okay.
harder to
Mm-hmm.
find a job at that age. I was laid
Yes.
off. I was laid off just before I was 40, but then I got another job in 2 weeks. It's different.
Yes.
As
Yes.
you get older, it's different, and
Yeah.
it was the timing. Barbados was totally on lockdown. So
Mm-hmm.
unless you were in an essential service, like a fireman, a nurse, a doctor, paramedic,
Yeah.
there was no it wasn't a matter of updating your resume and sending it out because there was nobody to send it out to.
Too.
So I
Yeah.
had to take some time to actually recover. I did not realize
Mm-hmm.
I was that tired. I slept a lot in the beginning, but that's because the
Mm-hmm.
job was so demanding. You kept going,
Yeah.
going, going. So I had to take some time off. I did a lot of praying.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of conversations with God, which,
Mm-hmm.
some of them are not repeatable, but we
Ah.
had to have conversations because, I was a good girl, God. I was a good girl. What are we doing? What are we
Yes.
doing here? Why are we here?
Yes.
And
Yes.
interestingly enough, one of the things, so you remember we talked about gardening? So like
Mm-hmm.
how my friend ate bakes and he would never eat bakes? When I left
Yes.
my house, right, I was never gardening ever in my entire lifetime, ever. But I actually went back to gardening because gardening is very relaxing and there is
Mm-hmm.
nothing interestingly enough in terms of a metaphor of putting a seed in deep dark soil and watching it grow. And
Mm.
that was my lifeline. I had to remember, okay, so you know what you need to do now? You need to reinvent yourself. I did some studying. I did some networking online, became more active on LinkedIn. But we're accustomed to fast food, so we want to put in the work and we want to see results. But that gardening
Today.
concept reminded me that growth takes time. And sometimes it's in darkness because when you plant that seed in the ground, there's no light for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, and then
Yes.
something happens. So I have a lot of land around my house. So I actually started a garden.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to guess the name of my garden, Allison? Like, it's a real garden for where I grow and sell plants. Do you want to guess the name of my garden?
Hmm. I'm so terrible. I guess I just tell me, put me on the break misery and tell me.
Okay, so the name of my garden is Gale's Garden. It's Gale's Garden,
Uh-huh.
and I sell like sunflowers and desert roses. I sell herbs
Whoa.
and stuff. I actually have a
Uh-huh.
Facebook page. It's not as active now as it was back then,
Yeah.
but it was very, very therapeutic to be out in nature, standing outside barefoot and growing
Yes.
and growing stuff and
Mm-hmm.
seeing things happen and then sharing my love of plants with other people because people love
Yeah.
plants too. So
Yeah.
that really helped a lot. And I actually then became certified in virtual training because most of my training before was in person. So just to
Yes.
give you perspective, how I got that 65,000 people that I've trained is not a number I pulled out of the sky. I did training across 23 countries in the Caribbean for 3 different
Well,
brands. And we
yeah.
would go to a different country every month and you'd have like 3 or 4 sessions, 2 sessions a day. So that's how you can get to those numbers over
Wow.
all those years. So you're training, training, training,
Yes.
training, training. Um, but no, we have to transition from face to face to virtual. So
Mm-hmm.
I became certified in virtual training.
Mm-hmm.
And then decided that, you know what, it might be better to launch my own business rather than try to get a job for somebody
Yeah.
else. Because that other
Yeah.
job I had before really was my ideal job. I couldn't see it happening somewhere else.
Yes. Again.
That's
Yeah.
how I started my company, Envision Training Solutions. And the
Mm-hmm.
name is intentional because I wanted people to see or envision training as a solution to their business
Mm-hmm.
issues, because it training really really is a solution, and it's
Yeah.
about practice, it's about the conversations,
Yeah.
communication, and it
Yeah.
is about culture. My job is to
Yeah.
make sure people remember we bring our culture to work, our Bajan culture, and our Bajan culture is
Yes.
more than a mother sali and crop over and walking up. It's
Yeah.
all the things that we got from the colonialism. We don't like to speak up. We believe that our job
Yes.
is gonna be the best thing that ever happened to us, and we take crap from people. But this whole is what we inherited
Yes.
from our
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
change and do different.
It's so important that people think about culture. And I know that sometimes when you think about culture, you're thinking, oh, suppose I go to Japan and I want to create a business, I need to, understand the Japanese culture. No, if you're in Barbados, you also need to understand how we are influenced and the way in which we do things and how you're going to get the best out of your people because you understand what's going
Yes,
on there. So I love
that
the
that
I love
that
what you put
last
there.
sentence, we're gonna put that in capital letters, because when somebody, like a company, I'm pausing because I don't want to use real life situations, but when a company
Yes.
acquires a Caribbean company, they never, I find, because I've been through it twice, they never take the culture into consideration.
Consideration.
You cannot impose your culture on us because we do things a certain way,
Yes.
and you can try to fight it, but it's not gonna happen. So
No.
even the basic things in the Caribbean, you have one Alison, and Alison's
Mm-hmm.
title might be whatever her title is, but she really doing
Mm-hmm.
four jobs. Your culture
Yes.
is Alison is responsible for one peeny area of a bigger
Yes.
part. So Alison might
Yes.
be responsible for selling cigarettes only. Gail selling the cigarettes, the cokes, the whatever it is. She gonna manage the people setting up it, and then you cannot understand. I know you want to measure my performance against Allison's
So,
performance, and I will
two,
always fail. I will always
always,
fail because you do not
always.
understand the culture. You do not
Yes.
understand the culture. You do not understand why family
Yes.
is important. Why
Yeah.
we are always late. Why we cannot do things on time. Why we like having
Yes.
fun. Why a lime after work is so
It's
important.
so
You need to
important.
you need to understand the culture, and you need to
That
work
is
with
so
us.
true.
You need to
Need
work
to
with us.
work. Yes.
Yeah.
So, so you lost your job in 2020. This is COVID. You've got these feelings of failure that you're wrestling with and navigating. How did people around you react? How did your family, your friends, how did they react to this situation that you found yourself in?
I think they reacted the normal Bajan way.
Okay. Tell us what's the
And,
normal Bajan way.
oh shoot, I so sorry to hear. Isn't that the normal
Yes.
Bajan way? Everybody's be
Yes.
sorry to hear. But then what's
Exactly.
happened after the sorrow? Tell me what
Move
happened
on.
after the sorrow. Um, so people were sorry to hear. I learned a lot about how people saw me. People
Mhm,
always, for my whole life, they've seen me as the strong person. No matter what happens, she can hit the ground running. Something can happen.
mhm,
Gail never gives up. She
mhm,
has options. If she
mhm,
wants help, she will ask rather than, okay, let me sit down and have a conversation with her and see what
mhm.
she needs and if I can help her.
Yeah.
So they saw me as they were sorry for me. They knew people close to me knew I had sacrificed a lot for that job.
Mhm,
I really really
mhm.
had. So they were sorry to hear. A lot of people were in
Yeah.
disbelief.
Yeah.
Um, I actually have a tribe of sisters
Mhm.
who support me a lot. They're four ladies. Some of them you may know. So it's like
Yeah. My girl.
Cheryl, Marietta Carrington, June Fowler, and Donna
Mhm,
Wade. So the
mhm.
five of us, we are very supportive of each other. So we encourage, the honest conversations. If you need
Yeah.
any help, ask. Even before you ask, you may say, "Okay, you know what? Let's do this." And you'd be surprised how a conversation, a normal conversation, will help. And I
Yeah.
think that was the biggest learning for me of this process. People just want to
Mhm.
talk and be heard, and they just want you to listen. So like whenever I go anywhere now, I ask one question, or I may say at the cashier, in the supermarket, "Oh, Alison, I love your nails," and it's not like because I've seen
Yeah.
some very exotic. I love your nails. Like what made
Yeah.
you choose pink and purple? What made you choose
Yes.
yellow and orange? And they
Yes.
just want they just want you to see them outside of what they're doing. Like this morning, I
Yeah.
talked to my garbage man, and I know that we weren't straight, and
All right. Okay.
we take, there's some people we take for granted. I never take my
Mm-hmm.
garbage people for granted, because when they don't
Mm-hmm.
come for 3 weeks, I'd be losing my mind. And I asked him how the strike went, if they had got everything resolved, and he said no, nothing had been resolved. And this morning, right? He said, and the next thing
Yeah.
that was going to happen is that the ones who went on strike were not going to be paid for the days they were off. So he knew that
Oh,
next week it was going to be more drama, you know. And he just wanted to have a no. I haven't changed the situation for him,
yeah.
but as he told me, no man, no man, use my people, you belong to me, because it has some things that I needed him to take
No.
away that
Yes,
should
yes,
not
yes,
have been taken
yes,
away. He said, no, 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 use my people, you belong to me. But it's
yes.
just the conversation, you know what I mean? It's that people just want to have a conversation, and they just want to be seen and heard outside of how you see them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that was my biggest lesson, because I had no title. I
Yeah.
wasn't a big up. I wasn't working with a big up company.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I am just Gail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
Gail. You are Allison. Let's have a
Just
conversation.
talk.
Let's just
Yeah.
talk. Talking
Yeah.
solves a lot of problems
Yeah,
somehow.
it does. It does though. It does. And again, I think it goes back to, you talked about living in Jericho and that feeling of community. And there is, I think, talking, because you talk with your community, you share with your community, you feel belonging and connectedness with your community. And ultimately, it's that belongingness and connectedness that as human beings, that's how we thrive. That's how we go through this
Mm-hmm.
world. So I think talking is how we connect with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look back on on the situation, how you move through it, no having the experience of going through it, is there anything that you would have done differently in the way that you approached, or you approached life afterwards? Is there anything, or even how you approach the job, is there anything that you would do differently? No.
Mm-hmm. I would manage my expectations. I
Right.
think that is a really, really big thing for us. We don't do a
Mm-hmm.
good job of managing our expectations. We think that
Mm-hmm.
if we're good to somebody, it follows naturally that somebody will be good to us.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, to be honest, your job owes you nothing except your
Mm-hmm.
paycheck. Your
Mm-hmm.
job wants you to owe them loyalty, but they don't necessarily owe you loyalty. So
Yeah.
that's the first
Yeah.
expectation you need to manage. Not that you don't give
Mm-hmm.
of your best, but understand that you can give of your best and your name could still be on the list.
Yes.
So you talked about community and being
Mm-hmm.
close to your community. The other expectation I think we have to manage is that understanding your work community, because
Mm-hmm.
those people you were I was there for 15 years, they were like
Mm-hmm.
friends and family more. They were like family more than friends. You're seeing these
Mm-hmm.
people every day, you have the job in common, you have the same kind of goals, everybody on the same page, you laugh. You When you are no longer a part of this community, Allison, you are no
Mm-hmm.
longer a part of this
Yeah.
community. It is not intentional, but
Mm-hmm.
understand that these people who were left are still busy at work. You are
Yeah.
not. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
there are no conversations to be had. So don't look
Mm-hmm.
for the wedding invitation, the birthday party, the children, the happy
Yeah.
hour. It is like you don't exist. And I
Mm.
think that was hard as well. Not hearing people that you
Yeah.
thought that you would have heard from
Yeah.
more often.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That was a big one. That was a big one where you thought people were family, but they're not. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, they're not. They're your
Yeah.
co-workers, you know.
Exactly.
And it was such a hard process. As I said, I think if I needed to be more prepared,
Mm-hmm.
and the plan is, even though it's after the fact, I think I would have invested wiser
Mm-hmm.
and done things differently
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
And one of the other things we don't think about too, boundaries. Also part of colonialism. We are taught
Mm-hmm.
to tell everybody yes. The ask
Yes.
is yes. The ask is
Yeah.
yes. We are not taught to say no. I
Mm-hmm.
think I would have been wiser at drawing boundaries. Like the
Mm-hmm.
deadlines, it can't happen because
Yes.
I'm not carrying home the work. I'm not working on the weekends. I'm not leaving Barbados a Sunday because Sunday is supposed to be my day. You have to,
Yeah.
not that you're not going to be flexible, but you need to be better at drawing boundaries.
Those boundaries. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hear that. And there's the interesting thing about what you said about community and so forth. And I don't know if it's true. I've not done any research on it to tell you the truth, but I think I got it from my sister-in-law. Not sure where she got it from, but she was just talking about like true friendship, you need to have more than one touch point. So like you and that person may touch base with, you may live for a similar community, you may belong to similar community groups, you may work together, but you need to have more than one touch point, because if one touch point goes, there are other things that
Mm-hmm.
keep you connected. But a lot of times I don't think that we recognize how transient work communities are, because we see the person every day and it
Mm-hmm.
translates to closeness, and there is closeness, it is real, it is authentic. But like you said, when you are out of that community, if there are no other touch points, there are no other way of communicating. And it isn't that the people don't care, it's just that that connecting thing is no longer there.
Mm-hmm. You made a very good point about the having additional touch points, and I didn't
Yes.
mention that before. So that was another thing in looking back I didn't have,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm.
I felt there was no time. There was honestly
Yeah.
no time to join and be a functioning part of any other organization. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of an organization outside of your company, whether it's
Yeah.
Rotaract, like Optimist, whatever it is, because at
Mm-hmm.
least that network will still be there for you when you are not a part of your job
Yeah.
community. That was
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
That was missing for me as well. I
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
networking. I would have networked before,
Yeah.
so that it would have helped me too. And then, if you are good at networking, it tends to follow. You may get another job easier because you're part of that outside community.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's those, I mean, the truth is, it is those what we call weak connections that oftentimes we get most of our opportunities from. It's not really
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
close friends, because we are close friends. We have the same experience. We know the same people. We need to shoot our arrows a little bit wider. And it's those weaker connections, those outside groups, that we get a lot more opportunities from. So you talked about gardening, and was there anything else that helped with your recovery from this painful experience that you had, especially when it came to your identity? Because I am quite interested in, how did you recover your identity, or how did you craft a new identity for Gail?
So I crafted a new identity for Gale
Mm-hmm.
by not only gardening. Remember, I talked about
Mm-hmm.
gardening and my faith. Faith is very important. You
Yes.
need to have
Yeah.
something to hold on to,
Mm-hmm.
and hope is very important. And we take
Yeah.
hope lightly. And I say that to say, in my training, I also talk to people about hope, because working in
Yeah.
customer service is not easy. My role is to help you live to see another day and give you hope, not to kill anybody, not to tell them about their family, etc., etc. That's another Caribbean thing.
Yes.
But let me share a lesson that my mom taught me. This is to answer your
Mm.
question.
Yeah.
My mom didn't have a lot of education,
Mm-hmm.
and but she was always studying. From the time I knew
Mm-hmm.
myself, she was always studying, and she would do
Mm-hmm.
these. I don't know if you remember, because I know I'm much older than you. These long distance courses where you pay the money, you
Mm.
send the money
Yes.
overseas, and they send one lesson. You complete the lesson,
Yes.
send the exam, and then when you pass, they send back the
We
next
send you the
lesson.
next,
She was
right?
always doing that, always doing that, always doing that, and
Uh-huh.
something related to her accounts. She was in accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and we barely made it through community college. People say
Mm-hmm.
education in Barbados is free. It is free, only that you may not have to pay a fee, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to buy the books,
Yeah.
and you have to buy the uniforms and stuff like that. And the books at community college were very expensive, and the fees, we barely made it through 2 years. So I
Yeah.
knew UE was gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't go to UE. But her
Mm-hmm.
advice was, it is not about a degree per se. It is about proof that you can do what you say you can do,
Right.
which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was so interesting. So, as I started out on my career, I became a certified administrative professional, which is a
Yeah.
secretary. Then I
Yeah.
became a certified professional secretary, because what her thing was, okay, don't think Caribbean, think global. Because if
Yeah.
something happens and you need to go overseas, you have a global designation, right? So I became
Yes.
a
Yeah.
CPS. Then I became a certified media professional when I moved into events planning.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to your question is, after I got severed, I needed proof that I could train people. And that's when I
Mm-hmm.
decided, I became a certified instructional designer, a certified virtual trainer, and
Yeah.
I got certification from the Association for Talent Development. So I picked associations that people would know. And that is
Yes.
how I reinvented myself. Okay, so I am a trainer, but you don't know I'm a trainer. Okay, this is
Yeah.
my piece of paper showing you
Yes.
that I know what I am
What I'm
doing
doing. Yeah.
before I even have, the title connected to a job. If
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yes, it
Because
does.
people
It
think when you're
does.
working with First Caribbean, for example, that regardless of your title, because of the company and the
That you know what
brand
you're
and the
doing.
reputation, that you know
Yes.
what you're doing. And you
Exactly.
also know, because you're smiling, that I had people that didn't know what was doing.
At all. At
That
all.
had a lot of people with titles at these companies that knew nothing and they were
Yes. Yeah.
clueless.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
working at a reputable branded company and having a big title helps you a lot. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you don't have that? And that's why I say, hindsight really is 2020 vision.
Yeah.
And I try to
Yeah.
have conversations with young people now who think they're on top of the world and their job is the best thing since sliced bread. I want you to ask more what if questions. What happens
Yeah.
if you lose your job? What
Mm.
happens if your car breaks down? What happens
Mm-hmm.
if your mother or father get sick and you have to look after
Mm-hmm.
them? Who's managing the insurance? Like, what
Yeah.
if, what if, what if? I needed to ask more what if questions as well.
Mm.
But that's how I reinvented myself. It wasn't only the
Yeah.
gardening, which was the relaxation side, because I'd given that up totally. I had not prioritized my mental health or emotional well being at all when I was working. And
Mm-hmm.
then I had to become a different kind of trainer, more
Yeah.
professional, more strategic,
Mm.
more out there, if that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
I now needed to have my own plan because I couldn't depend
Yeah.
on the company to have a plan for me.
Fine. Yeah. I love it because basically what you're saying is you knew your strengths, you knew the things that you were able to do, you knew your skills. And what you did was you focused on them and you gave yourself, whether or not it was through the certifications, etc., but you gave others the proof of seeing, well, I can get this done. But the thing that you did though was look inside and say, yes, I'm a trainer, I'm a good trainer. Let me focus
Mm-hmm.
on this. I am good at
Mm-hmm.
events planning, whatever, all these different things. I'm good at this. Let me focus on this and use my skills and use my strengths. Because I think, like, a lot of times it's so easy to focus on what we need to develop, what we need to become better at. And we forget that there are some very inherent strength things that we have learned over the time that give us a unique advantage that we don't really focus on. And sometimes we don't even see it as a strength. We don't recognize it. Like, I am so taken with the cultural aspect of the training, the cultural focus that you've got on your training, because again, that is so different, but so impactful and insightful, whether or not it is for actual local businesses, but also companies who might be coming to work in Barbados as well. But again, it is that understanding, that knowledge that you've got of the Barbadian culture that you've taken and you're doing something really significant with it. So I love
Mm-hmm.
I love how you reinvented yourself by looking at what is it that I am good at. Let me let people see that I am good at this.
Mm-hmm. And do you know, I'm listening to you, other things are coming because it's so true about, the colonialism and stuff, like how, what we are taught, right, to
Hmm.
get a job. It may not necessarily be what we want to do or what we are even
Yeah.
good at, because that was the point you made. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, you know what? You need to become a doctor, a lawyer. You need to pick a profession that will make you money.
Yes.
And some people
Yes.
go off and study and they don't, excuse me, they don't even want that. I
Hmm.
introspection, when you
Hmm.
have no choice but to introspect, because I wasn't
Hmm.
working, so now I could think, is very valuable. So I
Hmm.
would also encourage people to, in the middle of the chaos, take a moment for some introspection.
Hmm.
I knew I was good at training, but I had fallen into it. I wanted to do
Right.
something that I was good at, but I wanted to do something that I loved, because we do
Hmm.
things that we don't love and it doesn't
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
So I knew that I loved training, but I didn't love training. I loved helping people see things differently and helping them grow.
Right.
So it
Love
wasn't the
it.
training. I needed to have a reason behind the training at a
Yeah.
deeper
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
level, so that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't give up when things got
Hmm.
tough.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it had to be meaningful. And that's me. I like to, let's have a conversation. I think of my training, let's have a conversation. Let me help you see things differently. Let me help
Hmm.
you see how your culture is affecting how you serve people, and that
Hmm.
there is a different way, right? So I didn't want to, when I was reinventing myself, pick something. No, Alison, remember I told you I was 55. Don't forget that age, right?
Yes.
I was 55 years old. I did old
Yeah.
and tired. I know I look good for my age, but I was tired. There was no way, Alison, there was no way I was going to pick something I would have to go and learn from scratch.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
remember I told
It
you
would
about
not,
learning.
yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
don't have a photographic memory. I am about
You've got to
stress.
put the effort in.
Let me just do something that I know I can already do, that I love, that I can do well, that I can do
Hmm.
exceptionally well, because it wasn't
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
just well, something that I love,
Hmm.
that I was exceptional at. I
Hmm.
know I had the proof from before. People love the training sessions and stuff. It's just that instead of doing it for a company, no, I'm gonna do it for myself. If that all makes sense. So
Yes.
if anybody's listening, I want them to take away: you need to do something that you love
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
at the base
Hmm.
level. You need to love it,
Hmm.
because when you,
Hmm.
if it's not something that you love, when crap happen, you can give up and the world gonna come to an end.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Beijing,
Yeah.
in Beijing.
The world comes to that.
Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yeah, because the love is the motivation, is what's gonna keep you going. Because hardship, if it is hard and you don't love it, why continue? The love
Yeah,
keeps you going. It's the motivation to keep
passion.
going.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've got one final question for you, and it has to do with your unsung heroes. Although I feel in the back of my mind you've called their names already, but I'm going to give you the chance because I might be wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
I may be
Yeah.
making an assumption. So, who were your unsung heroes? Those persons who helped you through your failure to bring you out on the other side, and what did they do to support you?
Yes. So my unsung heroes. You
Yes.
know that's a hard word to say, right?
I know
As a
unsung
language
heroes.
person,
Yeah.
um, would have been my sister tribe, as I mentioned earlier, which is
Yes.
Cheryl Griffith, Marietta Carrington, June Fowler, and Donna Wade.
Yeah.
Very,
Hmm.
very supportive, because you need people that you can just call on, and they'll be there for you, even
Yeah.
if your thoughts or your conversations are the weirdest ever. Um, I also had people at work, at my old job, that I could call and talk to. They're
Yeah.
still there, so I'm not going to call those names, but you will find your unsung heroes in the strangest places. So
Hmm.
I'm a coordinator and organizer and an organizer.
Hmm.
When we got severed, it was roughly 140, I think, plus of us
Well,
across the entire
yeah.
Caribbean.
Yeah.
And because all of us had to do a lot of the same things, like find a medical plan, sort out your
Yeah.
unemployment, da 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 da, we came
Yeah.
together and we formed a group,
Hmm.
which I was the main person coordinating. So like, if it's the medical plan, I would say, okay, let's just come together for a Zoom call. I'm going to invite Alison from whatever company. She'll talk to us, and then you can make your decisions.
Hmm.
And I became my own unsung hero, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Keeping
Yes.
busy really
Yes.
helps you, and helping
Hmm.
others helps you as well.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I learned nobody's coming to save you. I know it's a
Hmm.
hard thing to say. The only person that can save you is yourself.
Yeah.
And I had to become a hero for myself, because growing up all along, remember, I was just failing, failing, failing. And people who fail are not heroes for themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
need to be your own hero first and look after yourself first,
Hmm.
and then you can save other people.
I love that. I see the cape. I see the cape behind there.
See my shirt, my shirt, my shirt, and my beige and yellow.
Yes.
Ah.
And you have dropped so many wonderful snippets for people who are listening. But is there any one last word, one last thing that you haven't said but was on your heart or is on your heart that you would want to leave for a person who may be going through a similar experience, or, it might be to come? Is there something that you want to say?
I would just say life happens, and it is okay to be bitter, but that doesn't mean after you're bitter you can't become better.
Mm.
People don't want you to be bitter,
Yeah.
and people want you to suppress a lot of emotions that come naturally.
Yeah.
Bitterness and disappointment, those two things go together, especially depending on the depth of the situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in my case, I had been working there for 15 whole long years,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
I'm severed. I am going to
Yeah.
be bitter. I am going to be disappointed. I need to sit with that for a while, but that doesn't mean I can't be better after I've
Yeah.
sat with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or anything, and sit with it and think about what did you give that you should not have given? What are you gonna
Yes,
do differently? Yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
boundaries should you have drawn?
Yeah,
What have you
yeah,
really
yeah.
learned?
Yeah. I
How are you
love
going to
it.
move forward? Yeah, to being
I
better.
Exactly. Be
Hmm.
bitter, but also be better. Love
Hmm.
it.
Correct.
Love
And I was bitter,
it.
Allison. I was
Yeah.
really bitter.
Yeah. I would be too. 15
I was
years.
really
You know,
bitter. I
I've
was
given up
bitter.
weekends, I've given up family time, I've given up.
Correct.
I would be bitter.
I was bitter, but I'm better
Yeah.
now.
There you go. Oh man, Gil, thank you so very much for coming on to Best Fields and for sharing this very personal experience that you've had with being made redundant. This was a wonderful conversation. I enjoyed all the different little facets and so many sound bites and snippets that I think people will find useful.
My pleasure.
A heartfelt thank you to Gail for sharing her story with such clarity, courage, and compassion. If you'd like to connect with Gail, you'll find all the details in our show notes. If Best Feels resonates with you, the best way to support us is to share it. Send it to a friend, leave a review on your favorite podcast app, or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Best Feels Podcast. Do you have a story of your own? We'd love to hear it. Email us at info@mybestfails.com and let's keep building this brave archive of our best fails. And if you're currently navigating a failure, personal, professional, or somewhere in between, and want a space to reflect and explore what it means for you, head to the show notes to book a discovery call with me. Failure is a community resource. Don't hoard yours. Share it. You never know who it might help or what it might heal. Until next time.